So in this video, I'm going to show you how to use clipping masks, and what they allow you to do is contain objects inside other objects and use them as a frame. And so you can think about them as like a stencil or sort of a cutout. So say, for example, I have this line of shapes and I want them to be not bound by the outside forms. I want them to be encased in a circle. So first I'm going to make sure that they are aligned vertically. So let's just make sure aligning to selection. Cool. And equal space between them. Nice. And then to use a clipping mask, you're going to do it where the shape on top is going to be the frame. So I'm going to take this circle and I'm going to make it a solid color, and I'm going to do something a little bit different than what I had in the background, just so it's a little bit easier to see. And I'm going to shrink it down just so it fits right on top of my shapes like that. And then select everything, right click, and use Make Clipping Mask. And that it's going to contain your shapes inside that element. And so what's nice is you see how when I hover over, it's showing me those outside forms. So even though those are encased inside, if I double click and go into isolation mode, I can expand or change any of those elements. So say this one, I want to expand up a little bit. This one, I want it to move down and shrink it down, make it a little bit smaller. And same thing with this one. Whoop. Same thing with this one. Like so, shrinking it down. And it stops shrinking because of the way that these curves are on the edge, but that's fine for right now. So here, and then press escape to get out of isolation mode. So here you see I have these shapes encased in a circle. If I want to get rid of that and release them, select your shape, right click, and release clipping mask. Select your shape, right click, and release clipping mask, and it'll return to normal. Command Z to undo. If you want to have that same, like if you want a circle behind all of this, it's the same size, you could either look at your size of your shape here. So it's 416 by 416. Click on your circle, click here, and type in 416, 416. And this is going to be placed behind it. And I'm going to right click and arrange, send it back, and you'll see that's now behind everything. Or the other way to do this is click on your shape, double click, so you just have the circle, Command C, press escape, Command V, and you see you just have your circle that's left over there. Fill it with a color, and again, right click, arrange, send it back, and now it's behind everything. And this is where you could select both things and use the align tools to make sure they're perfectly aligned with each other. Now, one thing is, if you want to have multiple shapes around a form, so if I have this and I right click, release clipping mask, if I want to do something like using my rounded rectangles here, let's give them a color. Give this one a color. If I see how both of these are on top, if I select both of them, or I select everything, and I right click and I go make clipping mask, notice it's only going to be applied to the very last one, the last shape that I made. So in order to have my shape behind be in both of these forms, I have to do one other step, and that's going to be make a compound path. And so I could click on this shape and click on this shape. So I selected both, holding down Shift to select both. And you go to Object, Compound Path, and Make. And what this does is it's similar to a group, but it imagines a path around the areas that are invisible. So right now, like there's nothing between these spaces here. And if you tried to do this as a group, you would just get, it wouldn't give you an error, but it just wouldn't work. There'd be nothing there. But a compound path allows you to account for invisible space as actual thing. So when I do make, nothing has changed, but they are technically grouped now. And then when I select everything, right click, make clipping mask, now they're selected inside both. So that's how you would get multiple objects within one form, and you can do as many objects as you want. And again, to release them, right click, release clipping mask. And if you don't ever see those options for clipping mask, you can go to object, and clipping mask is down here, and that will only be highlighted, object, clipping mask, if you actually have your items structured on top of each other.